I've always found solace in the quiet corners of libraries, the kind where dust motes dance in shafts of light and the world falls away to silence. So, when I stumbled upon a leather-bound book tucked away in a forgotten section of the city library's private collection, it felt like discovering buried treasure. The cover was embossed with intricate silver filigree, and the title, The Book of Lost Souls, ran down its spine in elegant script. Curiosity piqued. I checked it out, oblivious to the whispers of the librarians as I left. At home, I settled into my favorite armchair, tea in hand, and opened the book. The pages were yellowed with age, each name written in a meticulous, flowing hand. I flipped through the pages, intrigued. These weren't just names, they were stories, tales of people who had vanished without a trace. Each entry detailed their last known day, their fears, their hopes. The more I read, the more the room seemed to grow colder, the shadows deeper. Then I saw it. My name, written in the same black ink accompanied by today's date. My heart stopped. It was impossible. I read on, the words blurring as panic set in. The entry described my life, my loneliness, my nights spent in libraries. It even mentioned the tea I was drinking at that moment. The final line chilled me to the bone. She will vanish like all the others, swallowed by the shadows she so dearly loves. I slammed the book shut. This had to be a joke, a sick prank. I rushed back to the library, the book clutched tightly under my arm. The head librarian, an elderly woman with sharp eyes, watched me approach. "You shouldn't have taken that book," she said, her voice a whisper. "It's not meant for the public. It's meant to be a warning." "A warning?" I gasped, out of breath. "About what? Why is my name in it?" She sighed, looking around before leaning closer. This library was built on a site old as time itself, believed by some to be cursed. That book? It's a ledger of sorts, a collection of souls caught between worlds. Once a name appears, it signifies the shadows have claimed another. They grow restless, hungry. And now, they have you. I stared at her, my mind racing. How do I remove my name? There must be a way. There might be, she conceded, pulling a key from around her neck. There's a ritual, but it's dangerous. You must offer something in return, something precious. Without hesitation, I agreed. Anything to escape the fate the book promised. That night, under the librarian's guidance, I performed the ritual. We drew ancient symbols on the library floor, lit candles at each cardinal point, and I offered my most prized possession, my late mother's locket. As the clock struck midnight, the shadows in the library stirred, whispering around us like smoke. I held my breath, waiting. Then, just as suddenly, they retreated, disappearing into the walls and floors as if they had never been. The librarian checked the book. My name was gone. Relief washed over me in an icy wave. I thanked her, promising never to return. As I left, the weight of the locket gone from around my neck, I realized the price I had paid. The locket wasn't just jewelry. It was the last piece of my mother I had, the memory of her warmth and love. Now, those memories are fading, slipping through my fingers like sand. I saved myself from the shadows, but in doing so, I lost a part of my soul. I never went back to the library. Some nights, though, when the wind howls through the trees and the world is a little too silent, I wonder if it was worth it. And deep in my heart, the shadows still whisper. As a historian fascinated by the legends of my hometown, Dryden Crossing's phantom train was the pinnacle of unsolved mysteries. The tales had swirled through the generations. Every 50 years, at precisely 3:17 a.m., a spectral locomotive would thunder through the abandoned station. Those who saw it were either cursed with misfortune or blessed with luck. With the next appearance due in just a few days, I decided it was time to witness it myself and perhaps secure a piece of that fortune. Gathering a group wasn't difficult. Curiosity is a powerful lure. Among the volunteers were Emma, a fellow historian, John, a skeptical science teacher, and Mia, a local journalist. We set up camp near the old tracks, equipped with cameras and recording equipment. The night air was biting as anticipation and anxiety mingled in our breaths. The station itself was a relic from a bygone era, its structure shadowed and eerie under the moon's pale light. As the hour approached, the atmosphere thickened, a palpable tension settling over our small group. 3:16 a.m. The air grew colder, our breaths visible in sharp puffs of white. I checked my watch every few seconds, heart pounding. 3:17 a.m. A distant whistle cut through the night's silence. It was faint at first, then grew louder, the ground beneath us starting to tremble. From the misty darkness, the phantom train emerged, its engine glowing with an otherworldly light. It was magnificent, terrifying. The train didn't appear solid. It seemed made of smoke and shadows, yet the sound was unmistakable. The roaring of an engine, the clattering of wheels against tracks long unused. It passed before us in a fleeting, breathtaking moment, then disappeared into the night as abruptly as it had appeared. The air cleared, and the normal sounds of the night returned. We were left stunned, our cameras hanging forgotten around our necks. None of us had managed to capture the train on film. It was as if the train evaded capture by modern technology, or perhaps it was just our shaken nerves. Over the next days, the effects of the sighting began to manifest. John, who had scoffed at the legend, lost his job unexpectedly, his life spiraling into chaos. Mia, always the optimist, wrote a story about our experience that caught national attention, launching her career to new heights. As for Emma and me, we noticed subtler changes. I found a series of old letters hidden in the library archives that led to a groundbreaking historical discovery about Dryden Crossing, while Emma received a grant for a research project she had been dreaming of. But the sighting affected me in ways I hadn't anticipated. I began to dream of the train nightly, visions filled with sounds of a whistle and the rumble of wheels. Each dream was more vivid than the last, drawing me deeper into the legend I had chased. My days were consumed with poring over notes and maps, searching for an explanation that continued to elude me. One night, the dream changed. I stood alone at the station, the phantom train idling before me, its doors open as if inviting me aboard. The dream felt real, the cold metal of the handle chilling my palm. But I awoke before I could board, my heart racing, the ghostly echo of the train's whistle still ringing in my ears. Now, as I sit by the old tracks writing this account, I wonder about the price of our curiosity. The train has bound me to it, a silent promise of another meeting. In 50 years, will I be here again, waiting? Or sooner, perhaps, in dreams? Yes, we saw the phantom train of Dryden Crossing, and yes, it brought fortune and misfortune. But more hauntingly, it left us with a lingering presence, a whisper in the back of our minds that calls us back to that old, forsaken track under the pale light of the moon. Ever since childhood, the tales of Valmont Hall's eternal dancers whispered through my dreams. The hall, a once grand ballroom, had decayed into ruin, its splendor lost to time. Local legend claimed that on full moon nights, ghostly music echoed through its crumbling walls, and spectral dancers waltzed in an endless masquerade. My friends and I, skeptics by nature and thrill-seekers by choice, scoffed at such stories. Yet, curiosity, that old, relentless pull, led us to the gates of Valmont Hall one crisp autumn evening when the moon was just a sliver away from full. The hall stood isolated, shrouded by overgrown ivy and the weight of its cursed reputation. Armed with flashlights and a bottle of cheap courage, we pushed open the massive oak doors, their groan breaking the night's silence. Inside, the hall stretched vast and shadowy before us. Moonlight spilled through broken windows, casting eerie patterns on the dust-laden floor. It was silent, no music, no laughter, just the quiet whisper of wind through cracked walls. "We should dance," Jess joked, her voice a mix of bravado and alcohol-fueled mirth. But before any of us could respond, a chill swept through the hall, and a slow, haunting melody began to play, as if summoned by her words. It was beautiful, hypnotic, and before I understood what was happening, we were drawn into its rhythm. One by one we paired off, moving to the music with a grace none of us possessed. Our feet knew the steps, an elegant, sorrowful waltz that felt all too familiar. I looked at Jess, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and awe, as we spun around the grand hall. The music enveloped us, a lament from another time, and I felt a strange sadness, a mourning for a life I'd never lived. As we danced, the hall seemed to breathe life. The chandeliers flickered to light, casting golden glows on the walls. The silk curtains fluttered as though stirred by a gentle breeze. The floor gleamed, polished and grand as in its heyday. Around us, figures materialized. Dancers in garish ball gowns and tailored suits, their faces pale, their eyes empty of all but an eternal grief. The realization dawned on me then. We were not alone. We were part of the legend, swept into the eternal dance of the spirits condemned to waltz forever. I tried to stop, to pull away, but my body was not my own. The music dictated our movements, a puppeteer pulling our strings. Hours seemed to pass, or was it minutes? Time blurred, the dance unending. Panic rose in my throat as exhaustion gripped my limbs. Around me the ghostly dancers stared, their silent plea clear. They were trapped, and now so were we. At the stroke of midnight, as suddenly as it had begun, the music ceased. The ghostly figures faded into wisps of mist, their mournful eyes the last to disappear. We collapsed, breathless and drenched in sweat, the hall dark once more. Its brief revival ended. We fled Valmont Hall, the echo of the music haunting our steps. Outside, the moon shone full and bright, indifferent to our terror. Since that night, every full moon brings the melody back to me. In my sleep, I hear it, a call, a siren song I dare not answer. We escaped Valmont Hall with our lives, but part of us remains, forever dancing in its shadowed hall. Each note of music in the wind, each whisper of laughter in the dark, reminds me, some doors, once opened, can never be closed.